Have you ever heard the term revisionism? It's something that people use when the thing they like suddenly gets criticized or a lot of hate. And it's a term you see used very often in Spider-Man Twitter. Mostly because there's this unhealthy mentality that Spider-Man fans don't like Spider-Man just because they are very critical of what they are given. Considering the lack of quality in the past years, I really do not blame them. And the latest case of this has been Miguelohara, Spider-Man 2099, from the movie Across the Spider-Verse. I don't think this is the first time this ever happened, but, well, I didn't have a YouTube channel back then, so now I have the chance to give my 2 cents on it. In this case, revisionism doesn't apply to me. I have never liked this version of Miguel ever since the movie came out. And I think the way he was presented has kind of obstacled my enjoyment of the movie overall. Since, well, he's the main antagonist. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you why I don't like this version of Miguelohara, both from a design standpoint and as a writing standpoint, and also try to answer a question. Yes, Miguel is different from the one in the comics, but does he work for this specific movie? Now let's start off with the design, since it's much easier for me to talk about it, considering how many times I've seen it, both willingly and unwillingly. I'm gonna start off with the things I like. I really like the chest logo, and how much it both looks like a spider and also a skull. It's something that in the classic chest logo kind of gets lost. Like it does look like a skull, but the spider element kind of gets lost a little bit. And I like the way it was executed here. It looks like, you know, a little spider that it's coming down from the ceiling. And I also like the way the skull was implemented in like the abdomen of the spider. Kind of reminds me of the symbols spiders have to like communicate that they're more dangerous than other spiders, kind of like the Black Widow. And it makes sense for this version of Miguel, since he's way more aggressive and animalistic than other Spider-Men. I really like the implementation of red on both the insides of the gloves and on the soles. It kind of helps to balance the colors a little bit. And I also really like the red knuckles on the gloves. I really like when they give the knuckles a different color or just like accentuate them. It just makes sense. Spider-Man is a character that punches. He needs to have more, you know, flair on that particular part of the hand. So, you know, the punches are more effective. And I also really like the colors. Like, I know the suit isn't supposed to be blue, but it just kind of works more when it's blue. I can explain it. I think that's all I like about the costume. Now, let's start with a really minor thing. I really do not like, or where I don't get the inclusion of these red straps, both on the gloves and on below the knees. Like, what is their purpose? Why are they there? This always kind of bothered me because now the gloves look a bit too, you know, busy. And the legs just kind of have this V-shaped thing on them, which really doesn't benefit anything. They're just there. I don't really like the way they executed the eyes. It's like they stripped away everything that gave the original eyes a little bit of personality. Like, yes, they do keep the spikes at the end of the eyes, but they removed the other spikes that the original eyes have. They don't have the spider legs coming out from the sides anymore. And I don't know, the mask is just so boring to look at. I don't know. I get that it's a bit more squinty, more like the white suit. Both of these suits have squintier eyes, so there isn't really a lot of space to have the spider legs coming from the sides or anything like that. But at least the white suit kind of benefited from that by having a lot more going on below the neck. You could say the same happens here, but I don't like it, so it's different. I appreciate they tried to put something in the back of the suit, since originally it was just a blank body, and that looked kind of weird. But what is that supposed to be? Like, what shape is that? Are they supposed to be fangs? Or like the back of a spider? I don't know, I really don't like that. I would have preferred, like, when I think of ways to fill the blank body side of this suit, I always think of what Spider-Man Unlimited did, the game. It literally just made another logo for the back. And I mean, to me, it kind of worked. I wouldn't just copy and paste it, maybe make a smaller version of it or something, but just something around those lines. Maybe you can put the logo like on the upper side of the back, and then have some legs to travel down so they can like shape the way his entire back looks like, his muscles and everything, like the classic suit does for the muscles of his torso. Like the legs that come down from the head of the skull are like there to shape his entire physique. You look at the logo and you know that this Spider-Man is, well, bulkier than most, while still not being like a huge monster of muscles, but he still has some definition. I don't really like that the arm spikes, I don't know what to call them. They're just reduced to, I like that they're retractable. It always bothered me that in the classic suit they're just always there, and they always looked very impractical at times. And I do like that they're retractable here, but I don't really like that they just come out of these like red straps on the arms. I would have much preferred if they like come out of the red stripe that comes from the logo from the original design. Lastly, his webs. These are not webs. Why does he shoot fucking laser beams from his wrists? Are these supposed to be sticky webs? Or just, you know, sort of bolas to trap enemies? It just... Why do they look like that? But now let's get to my problems with his writing. Okay, first, let's get the obvious out of the way. Why the hell is he the leader of an entire society of spider people? I can never picture Miguel taking on a role this, like, ambitious. He's more of a, you know, a symbol that people recognize and that inspires them to, you know, rebel to the corrupt corporations that basically dominate the future he lives in. But I can never picture him being like this actual role figure to other people. I'm not even gonna like get mad at the change of, you know, backstory, since his is not really that much explored in this movie. We just know that he found another world where he has a family and a daughter instead of a son, but whatever, it's another world. I'm not gonna get mad about that. But since Lila doesn't look like Marilyn Monroe, I think a lot of his past from the comics doesn't apply here. But, well, again, we don't know because we haven't been told, so I'm not gonna get mad about that. What I am gonna get mad about, though, is the representation of Nueva York. When Miles, like, is escaping from all the spider people in the society building and he just jumps out of it, we see, like, this stereotype of future that, like, 2000s people had, with, green landscapes, a lot of big tall buildings, and, flying cars. That's cool. That's cool, but that's not Nueva York. Like, if Nueva York looks like that, the entire flair and what made Miguel stand out in his own future it's not there anymore. Nueva York is supposed to be just this giant corrupt city. You would look at it and you would get a feeling that something is not right. And then below all of that is an even worse city, basically dominated by crime and cannibalism. I can see none of that here. And again, I do kind of like the reference to future utopias that internet people had back in the day. But again, it's not Nueva York. It's just not Nueva York. It's New York Utopia Future 2070 or something. Another thing I don't really like is, well, generally his behavior. Like, I like that he's kind of a douchebag, since he was kind of a douchebag in the comics. But some things like the Spanish speaking kind of, I don't know, sounds a little bit too stereotypical, maybe. I mean, we could argue basically every single spider person they adapt is a bit stereotypical, but they usually make it work. I'm not gonna call him, the racist Spider-Man because he goes against Miles, but it's not something he would do. Like, again, this entire mission, I can really picture him putting himself on such a high-profile role and deciding who can be Spider-Man and who cannot, and what you can do and what you cannot. It just kind of feels like he becomes the one thing he has always fought against, Okay, now, with all that out of the way, let's get back to the initial question. Even if he is very different from his version of in the comics, is this Miguel a good antagonist in this movie? He is. If you were to watch this movie knowing nothing about Miguelohara, you would be not bothered at all, because he is a very well-written antagonist. My problem is that Miguel does not suit this archetype of villain that they chose for this movie. And it always kind of bothered me because I always associated this archetype with another Spider-Man. Superior Spider-Man. Now, hear me out. Superior Spider-Man is a lot more arrogant, he's a lot more perfectionist, and also arguably more efficient. He has led a faction of spider people in the spiderverse event, so he knows his shit when it comes to, directions and leadership. He would definitely also go after a Spider-Man because he broke the rules. He's so fatiguely built up. They had the perfect character to use as an antagonist for this movie, but they just decided to strip away all of his personality traits and give them to someone else. It would have even created sort of a cool narrative, since all these Spider-Men basically take orders from this one Spider-Man that looks like Peter Parker but is actually a Spider-Man villain. But no, we're stuck with Miguelo-fascist. Okay, I think I said all I wanted to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this version of Miguel, what you would have changed, if you're okay with it, or anything else. And I'm gonna retreat in my web cocoon, never to come out again.